Imagine the silence before the unimaginable, the moment when the sea forgets to breathe. The birds fall quiet, the air grows heavy, and the tide pulls back not gently but violently, as though the ocean itself were drawing a long breath. You walk outside your house, and what you see is not ordinary low tide but a desert of sand that should never be revealed, rocks and fish stranded where water should reign, an unnatural emptiness stretching toward the horizon. This is the first sign, the omen that whispers louder than any siren. A tsunami is coming. To understand what the tsunami that would flood your house would be like, you must begin here, in this deceptive calm. People describe it as haunting, unreal, a silence that screams. It is in this moment that choices matter most. Some stand in awe, wandering across exposed seabeds to collect shells, unaware that the ocean is only borrowing breath to return with fury. Others feel instinct stir within them, a primal warning that commands them to run, to climb, to seek heights, because something greater than human strength is on its way. The ocean has always carried stories of creation and destruction, and the tsunami is one of its harshest sermons. A tsunami is not merely a wave, it is the ocean rearranging itself, a wall of water born from earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, or landslides beneath the sea. When tectonic plates shift, the energy released does not vanish. It transfers into water, pushing billions of tons forward at terrifying speed. Out in the deep ocean, a tsunami may barely rise above a few feet, invisible to ships. But as it races toward shallower coasts, it rises higher and higher, because energy compresses, water piles upon itself, and gravity bends into a weapon. This is the wave that will flood streets, uproot trees, and smash houses into splinters. This is the wave that could reach your door. What would it feel like if such a wave came for you? The first impact is sound. Survivors say it roars like 100 trains, a thunder that does not end, a voice of Earth itself. Then comes the sight, a wall of water taller than buildings, blotting out the horizon, carrying within it debris of everything it has already consumed. Cars, boats, roofs, all tumbling within its body like toys in the hands of a giant. And then comes the force, a surge not of liquid but of crushing mass, strong enough to hurl buses, to break concrete, to tear open foundations. Imagine your own home in that path, the walls you thought unshakable splintering like straw, memories scattered into mud, everything familiar drowned in seconds. History remembers this destruction not as fantasy but as reality. In the year 2004, when the Indian Ocean earthquake struck, waves rose higher than palm trees, racing across coasts with speeds faster than a jet, leaving over 200,000 lives lost in their wake. In Japan 2011, the tsunami following the Tohoku earthquake climbed over seawalls, flooding entire cities, triggering nuclear disaster, reminding humanity that even nations prepared can still be humbled. Centuries earlier in Lisbon 1755, the sea withdrew, lured curious citizens onto exposed seabed, then returned with waves that swallowed thousands. These are not stories meant to frighten but to awaken, because they show how tsunamis do not negotiate, they do not compromise, they simply arrive with total authority. But what if it was not history? What if it was your street, your window, your house? Picture the warning signs. First, the earth trembles, your shelves rattle, a low growl beneath your feet. Then minutes later, the tide runs away, leaving boats stranded, seabed exposed. And then the horizon darkens with the shape of a wall that should not exist, taller than trees, swallowing skyline as it advances. The flood does not trickle, it slams, it tears doors from hinges, it smashes glass, it fills rooms with chaos. You do not swim in a tsunami, you are carried, battered, spun, breath stolen by currents that feel like fists. The water does not arrive politely at your doorstep, it invades, and once inside it refuses to leave. How do you avoid this fate? The truth is not mystical but practical, and yet survival depends on remembering in moments of panic. The first rule is simple: if the ground shakes near a coast, expect the sea to follow. Earthquakes are not separate events, they are warnings. The second rule: if the water recedes suddenly and unnaturally, run inland or upward without hesitation. Do not wait for sirens, do not collect belongings, do not film videos. The third rule: seek high ground. Even a few meters can mean difference between survival and death. Tsunamis lose power as they climb, but they destroy everything at base. The fourth rule: never underestimate the second or third wave. Many tsunamis strike in series, and while the first devastates, the second often kills those who return too soon. Yet beyond physical rules lies mindset. A tsunami teaches the philosophy of humility. We build cities, we carve coastlines, we believe we master the earth, yet in moments ocean reminds us we are guests upon its shore. To survive is not to conquer but to respect, not to resist but to adapt. In life too, waves come that threaten to drown us. Losses, failures, heartbreaks. And as with tsunami, we cannot stop them by denial, only by preparation, awareness, and resilience. The lesson is that strength is not stubbornness but flexibility, not arrogance but wisdom. Imagine now that your house is safe for the moment. You stand on higher ground watching wave consume streets below. You feel both relief and sorrow, because survival is never only joy, it carries weight of witnessing destruction. This is another truth of tsunamis. They do not only break wood and stone, they break illusions of permanence. What you thought eternal is fragile, what you thought safe is vulnerable. And yet, in aftermath, people rebuild, communities rise, new homes are made. Tsunamis destroy, but they also reveal, reminding humanity of resilience greater than any wall. As you drift into sleep, imagine ocean not as enemy but as teacher. Its myths and its science both point to same truth. Life is fragile, yet wisdom can preserve it. The tsunami that could flood your house is both nightmare and lesson, both terror and teacher. To know its power is to respect it, to prepare for it is to honor life. And in preparation lies peace, the kind of peace that allows you to rest even while waves whisper outside. For survival begins not in moment of impact, but in moment of awareness. And awareness is gift you already hold. The ocean has memory, and when it chooses to remind the world of its strength, it does so with tsunamis, those rare but devastating surges that arrive like sudden awakenings from the earth itself. To imagine what the tsunami that would flood your house would be like, you must look at how the ocean has acted before, because history is not dead, it is rehearsal. The same patterns that once shattered empires could one day roll across your street. The same silence that tricked villagers centuries ago could silence your neighborhood tomorrow. The sea remembers its fury and its myths, because humans forget, and this forgetting is always costly. Picture once more the sequence. Beneath the floor of the ocean, tectonic plates grind, invisible but relentless. For years, for centuries, pressure builds like a held breath, stress accumulating along lines of weakness. Then, in one instant, the earth exhales violently. An earthquake of magnitude 8 or 9 shifts the seabed, lifting it by meters, dropping it by others. Billions of tons of water above are displaced in a heartbeat. A pulse begins. That pulse spreads across ocean at speed faster than jet aircraft, waves traveling unseen, barely noticeable at first, yet carrying energy beyond imagination. You would not see it on a calm morning offshore. You would not sense it as you sip coffee near the beach. And yet, within hours or minutes, that invisible energy will stand at your doorstep as a tower of destruction. Imagine if your house lies near the coast. The earthquake might be distant, but the sea will deliver its message. Perhaps the first sign you see is confusion among animals. Birds take flight inland, dogs howl, fish surge wildly near shore. Then, the withdrawal. The water recedes as though summoned backward, exposing reefs, wrecks, the skeleton of seabed. People run toward it in fascination, but you, if you remember, run away because that emptiness is prelude to fullness, that retreat is the coiling of spring before release. This is the deceptive moment that has killed countless, the human instinct to marvel instead of flee. Now imagine the return. The wave approaches not as graceful surf, but as wall of churning chaos. It is not translucent blue, but opaque brown, filled with sand, debris, fragments of lives already broken elsewhere. The front of the wave is jagged, foaming, filled with trees, roofs, cars. It does not curl like surfers' fantasy, it towers like collapsing building, and it moves with speed no human can outrun, swallowing kilometers in minutes. By the time you see its crest clearly, it is already too late. What happens when it strikes your house? The foundation gives way, Walls explode outward. Furniture is thrown like sticks. The pressure of moving water is unimaginable. A single cubic meter weighs over a ton, and tsunamis bring billions of such tons. No door, no glass, no human arm can resist. You are swept, rolled, churned like driftwood. The wave does not carry you gently, it grinds you against fragments, drags you into currents that twist like whirlpools. Survivors describe it not as swimming but as drowning in chaos, a battle to find air between seconds of suffocation. And yet some survive, clinging to roofs, trees, floating doors, enduring minutes that feel like eternity. History again offers testimony. In 2004, the tsunami reached heights of 30 meters in some places, walls of water taller than 10-story buildings. In Japan, 2011 waves advanced kilometers inland, swallowing farmland and factories, reaching airports, carrying ships into streets. In Alaska, 1964, an earthquake created waves that devastated entire harbors in minutes. These are reminders that scale is not fantasy, that the wave that could reach your house might be taller than your roof, might not stop at your garden but keep pushing until it swallows entire towns. How then does one avoid it? The first and most powerful tool is knowledge. You cannot outrun a wave when it is already at your door, but you can avoid being there when it arrives. Evacuation zones are marked in many coastal cities, maps showing safe elevations. To know them is to honor your own life. The moment an earthquake strikes near coast, the moment you see sea retreat unnaturally, act immediately. The higher you go, the safer you are. A building may crumble, but a hill endures. Distance is safety, height is survival. Yet avoiding death in tsunami is not only about physical escape, it is about preparation of mind. Imagine your own home again, its walls filled with memories, photographs, objects tied to life. When the wave comes, you must abandon them without hesitation. To cling is to drown. This is why tsunamis are metaphors for life's hardest moments. They force you to decide what matters most. Life over possessions, awareness over denial, humility over arrogance. People who survive speak of this choice, of the split-second decision to let go. This decision is not weakness, it is wisdom, because survival is always more precious than any object. The tsunami that would flood your house would not only break wood and stone, it would break illusions. It would remind you that safety is never guaranteed, that permanence is dream. And yet, in breaking, it also teaches resilience. Communities destroyed rebuild with stronger codes, better warnings, deeper respect. Families mourn but also strengthen bonds. Survivors carry lessons into future, passing them down as new myths, new warnings, so next generation does not forget. The sea destroys, but it also instructs. What of those who do not live near coasts? Why should they care about tsunamis? Because waves are more than physical, they are also metaphors of crisis. Financial collapse, illness, war, grief. These too come suddenly, flooding lives, drowning plans. The lessons of tsunamis apply. Prepare, respect, act swiftly, value what cannot be replaced. The ocean is mirror of life, and its myths remind us not only how to survive water, but how to endure existence. As you drift into rest with these thoughts, remember that fear can paralyze, but it can also awaken. The tsunami is not only monster but messenger, telling humanity to respect Earth, to remain humble, to learn from destruction. To imagine the wave that would flood your house is not morbid fantasy but practice in awareness. And in that awareness lies safety, not only from water but from every storm life will send. The sea does not hate, it simply is, immense and indifferent. It is we who must learn to listen. Every civilization that has touched the ocean has written its story upon the water, but the ocean has also written its stories upon civilizations. The tsunami is one of its cruelest signatures, a reminder carved not only into coastlines but into culture, memory, and myth. To ask what the tsunami that would flood your house would be like is to ask what humanity has already endured, because the waves of past centuries are the rehearsal of tomorrow. To study them is not to indulge in fear but to inherit wisdom, because the ocean repeats itself, not in exact detail but in eternal rhythm, and those who listen to its patterns may one day live when others are swept away. One of the oldest remembered tsunamis struck the Mediterranean in the ancient world. When the volcano of Thera erupted in the second millennium before Christ, the explosion shattered the island now called Santorini, sending waves across the Aegean that swallowed coasts, sank fleets, and reshaped cultures. Some historians believe the destruction inspired legends of Atlantis, a city lost beneath waves. For villagers, however, it was not myth but nightmare, a sudden end that no wall could stop. Imagine standing upon those shores, hearing thunder that was not storm but mountain breaking, watching sea recede and then return with walls of water taller than temples. That is what the tsunami that would flood your house would resemble. An ancient story repeating in modern streets, a legend remade in your living room. Centuries later, in the year 1755, Lisbon was thriving, a city of wealth and culture. On the 1st of November, the ground shook violently, churches crumbled, fires spread, and within minutes the sea drew back. Crowds wandered into newly exposed harbor, marveling at treasures revealed. Then came 3 waves, some higher than 20 meters, that swept across city, drowning thousands in an instant. The survivors spoke of screams silenced beneath roar of water, of carriages floating like driftwood, of bells tolling undersea. For Lisbon, the tsunami was not only disaster but revelation, proof that power of nature dwarfed pride of empire. What would it look like if such a wave struck your own city today? Streets turned to rivers, highways into canals, skyscrapers standing like lonely islands, your house reduced to fragments carried miles inland. More recently, in the year 2004, the Indian Ocean earthquake created a wave so massive it reached across countries, striking Indonesia, Thailand, Sri Lanka, India, even Africa. Over 200,000 lives ended in a single day, families erased, villages removed from map. Eyewitnesses describe water rising with no horizon, simply wall of destruction advancing, unstoppable. Those who survived did so not by strength but by instinct. Running inland, climbing trees, clinging to debris. Imagine yourself in that moment. Would you know what to do? Would you recognize the signs? Or would you stand frozen in disbelief? The difference between life and death was often seconds of awareness. The tsunami that would flood your house gives no mercy for hesitation. In the year 2011, Japan faced tsunami that climbed over seawalls built to protect. The Tohoku earthquake shook with magnitude 9, and waves rose higher than 10 meters, sweeping across farmland, airports, entire cities. The images remain etched into global memory. Cars lifted like toys, houses dragged whole into sea, ships deposited upon rooftops. Over 15,000 lives ended, and nuclear disaster followed, showing how waves destroy not only homes but systems, not only individuals but nations. If such a wave struck your coast, how would it transform your house, your community, your country? Would the walls you trust stand, or would they crumble like paper before weight of water? Yet even beyond recorded history, tsunamis have left traces. Sediment layers reveal ancient waves that reached kilometers inland, deposits of shells found far from sea. These are silent witnesses, geological memories of destruction. Scientists read them like scripture, warning that what has happened before can and will happen again. If layers of sand upon mountain valleys tell of waves taller than forests, what then of your neighborhood by the coast? What if tomorrow's sediment includes fragments of your walls, pieces of your furniture, memories of your life? This is not exaggeration, but inevitability, because ocean does not forget. To imagine tsunami flooding your house is to strip away illusions of control. You may have locks, alarms, insurance, but no contract binds the sea. It comes when it wills, and its law is final. Yet within this harsh truth lies power, because knowing history is preparation. Every disaster endured by past generations carved lessons into humanity's mind. Sirens now wail in coastal cities because Lisbon drowned. Early warning systems exist because 2004 destroyed. Stronger seawalls rise because 2011 humbled. To learn from history is to armor yourself with wisdom, to inherit survival from those who could not. So, what would the wave look like at your door? Perhaps it would rise in silence first, the water creeping at your feet, before suddenly surging with roar. Perhaps it would come not as single wall, but as series, each higher, each crueler. Perhaps it would arrive at night, under moonlight, giving no chance to see until sound woke you. Or perhaps it would strike during day, when children played, when laughter drowned warnings. It would not ask permission, it would not wait for readiness. And yet survival is possible, if mind is awake, if body obeys, if spirit remembers. How can you avoid it? Beyond physical escape lies cultural preparation. Families who practice drills survive. Communities who build safe zones endure. Individuals who respect warnings live. The key is to not forget, to not allow comfort to erase memory of risk. A tsunami is rare, but rarity is deception. Lightning is rare, yet we respect it. Fire is rare, yet we prepare for it. So too must we respect sea, because one day its memory may return at your doorstep. And what lesson does tsunami carry for life itself? That waves come to everyone, not always of water, but of crisis, of loss, of change. They come suddenly, overwhelming, breaking the structures you thought permanent. And yet, as with water, survival depends on humility, awareness, preparation, and resilience. If you can imagine the wave and still breathe calmly, still act wisely, then you are ready not only for ocean but for life. For the sea does not distinguish between coast and heart. It teaches in all its forms, and its harshest lessons are also its deepest gifts. To understand what the tsunami that would flood your house would be like, you must look at the anatomy of destruction itself, not as abstract idea but as sequence of physical truths that unfold with terrifying order. Tsunamis are not chaos without structure. They are choreography written in gravity, pressure, and motion. When the ocean decides to rearrange itself, it does so step by step, and each step is devastating in its own right. To study this anatomy is to strip away illusion, to see clearly how the sea takes apart everything humans have built, and how survival is found in the gaps between each strike. The first phase begins beneath the seafloor. Tectonic plates locked in tension slip with sudden violence, releasing energy equal to hundreds of nuclear weapons. That release pushes entire columns of water upward or downward, creating bulge or depression that spreads outward. The wave is born not of surface wind, but of Earth's bones shifting. If your house lies anywhere near coast, this first phase already determines your fate, because from here the energy travels outward in every direction, a silent army of waves invisible until they rise. The second phase is propagation. Out in the deep ocean, the wave is barely noticeable, perhaps a few feet high, but moving at speed faster than commercial aircraft. A ship crossing it might feel only gentle swelling, unaware of power beneath, but that energy keeps traveling, carrying momentum across entire ocean basins. Hours later, sometimes minutes, it will reach shallows. This is where tsunami transforms. The wave slows as bottom rises, but energy must go somewhere, so it stacks upon itself, compressing into height. What was once ripple in deep becomes tower near shore. The third phase is approach. Water pulls back dramatically as waves trough arrives, exposing seabed. It is this moment that kills the curious, those who wander into emptiness, believing it is gift instead of warning. If you ever see water retreat unnaturally fast, you are standing in death's invitation. The correct response is to run inland immediately. Imagine your own street, waterline vanishing, boats stranded upon sand, neighbors staring. The temptation to marvel is strong, but the wise recognize it as signal of destruction preparing to strike. The fourth phase is impact. The crest of tsunami rises above skyline, filled with debris and foam, and strikes coast with force no structure can withstand. Water does not glide, it slams. Entire neighborhoods vanish in seconds. Houses that took years to build are reduced to rubble, carried in torrent. The wave does not discriminate between mansions and shacks, temples and markets, children and adults. It levels indiscriminately, treating all as equal before its weight. If it reached your house, it would tear open doors, break foundations, rip walls apart, fill every room with mud, sewage, fragments of other homes. The fifth phase is inundation. After first strike, the water continues flowing inland, turning streets into rivers. Vehicles float, colliding with each other. Walls collapse, bridges vanish. The flood may reach kilometers inland, depending on terrain. This is where survival becomes desperate. People clinging to trees, roofs, anything that floats. Currents swirl with terrifying speed, pulling victims under, smashing them against debris. Imagine your neighborhood submerged, landmarks gone, familiar streets erased into uniform sea of destruction. The sixth phase is retreat. Water flows back to ocean carrying debris, bodies, memories. This backwash is as deadly as impact, dragging survivors out to sea. Those who escaped waves' strike may still perish in retreat, pulled into whirlpools, tangled in wreckage. And yet, often another wave follows. Tsunamis rarely come alone. Second or third waves may strike minutes later, sometimes larger than first. To return too soon is fatal. To underestimate is death. This anatomy has played out countless times. In Chile 1960, the largest earthquake ever recorded at magnitude 9.5 generated tsunamis that crossed Pacific, striking Hawaii, Japan, the Philippines. Waves traveled thousands of miles, proving that distance offers no immunity. In Alaska 1964, the Good Friday earthquake created local waves that destroyed entire harbors within minutes. In each case, sequence repeated: earthquake, retreat, impact, inundation, retreat, return. The choreography is brutal but consistent. What would this mean for your house? It means that survival depends not on strength of your walls but on swiftness of your steps. No home can stand against billions of tons of water. Only height, distance, and awareness protect. To imagine your home destroyed is painful, but to imagine yourself surviving is necessary. Preparedness transforms tragedy into resilience. Families that know signs escape. Those who forget are swept. How then do you avoid it? The answer lies in recognizing pattern early. Earthquake shaking near coast is immediate warning. Do not wait for official alerts. Do not linger. If sea withdraws suddenly, act instantly. Move to highest ground available, even if it seems excessive. Better to climb unnecessarily than to regret hesitation. Communities with practiced evacuation drills show dramatically higher survival rates. Knowledge and action save lives, not walls or possessions. Yet beyond practical steps lies deeper lesson. The tsunami reveals fragility of human pride. We build homes with care, decorate them with memories, fill them with possessions we believe permanent. But wave strips them away in seconds. To accept this truth is not despair but liberation. It reminds us that life is not possessions but presence, not walls but bonds, not permanence but resilience. What would you save if given only seconds? What would you cling to if forced to choose between object and life? These questions, though harsh, sharpen wisdom. The tsunami that would flood your house is also metaphor. In life we all face waves of crisis, sudden illness, financial collapse, betrayal, loss. They come with little warning, sweeping away what we thought unshakable. We cannot stop them, but we can prepare, not with bricks but with mindset. Awareness, humility, adaptability, these are life jackets of spirit. To survive wave of water or wave of life, you must be willing to let go, to rise above, to trust resilience within. History shows communities rising stronger after devastation. Japan rebuilt with higher seawalls and deeper respect. Indonesia created warning systems where none existed before. Chile strengthened building codes and education. Each lesson carved by tragedy became foundation for survival. This is ocean's harsh gift. It teaches through destruction. To honor those lost is to learn, to prepare, to respect warnings, to live with awareness that sea is eternal teacher. So what would tsunami at your door look like? It would be wall of water taller than trees, roaring with voices of earth, slamming into house with force no human can resist. It would reduce to fragments everything familiar, scatter memories into mud, drown streets in chaos. But if you recognize signs, if you act swiftly, if you carry humility in heart, it does not have to claim you. The wave may flood house, but it need not flood your life. As you close your eyes to rest, imagine ocean not as enemy but as mirror. Its myths of destruction remind us of fragility. Its rhythms remind us of resilience. To dream of tsunami is to dream of trial, but also of strength discovered when waves recede. The anatomy of destruction is also anatomy of survival, and survival begins with memory, awareness, action. The ocean teaches, the wise listen, the humble live. Every wave carries a lesson, and tsunamis are the harshest teachers of all. To imagine the tsunami that would flood your house is to imagine a classroom where the chalk is salt and the blackboard is sky, where the lesson is written not in words but in walls of water that erase streets and redraw coastlines. Humanity has faced this teacher again and again, sometimes learning, sometimes forgetting, always paying a price. To explore these lessons is to hold up a mirror, not only to survival in the face of natural disaster, but to survival in the storms of life itself. The first lesson is humility. The sea has existed for billions of years, long before houses, cities, or even human beings. It is larger than pride, stronger than arrogance, and it humbles those who believe they can master it. Imagine standing on your porch as the water pulls back, leaving seabed exposed. You might feel curiosity, even control, as though the ocean has retreated to let you rule. But humility reminds you that this retreat is trick, that the wave returning will show you how small your authority really island. To survive, you must bow to reality, admit that power is not yours, and act accordingly. In life, as in tsunami, humility saves more than pride ever can. The second lesson is speed. Hesitation kills. The earthquake rattles, the tide recedes, the horizon darkens. These are signals not for debate, but for action. Seconds matter. Those who pause to gather belongings, to record video, to argue, are often lost. The sea moves faster than human thought when thought is trapped in denial. Imagine the seconds wasted deciding which possessions to save, and then imagine the wave arriving before decision ends. Survival lies in movement, in obeying instinct honed by knowledge. To hesitate is to drown. In life too, crises demand speed, the courage to act even before all is clear. Better to run and live than to linger and regret. The third lesson is resilience. Even when wave destroys, life returns. After tsunamis, coastlines rebuild, forests regrow, survivors gather strength. The scars remain, but they become reminders, not prisons. Imagine your house swept away, foundation cracked, walls reduced to rubble. You might think life is over, but resilience says otherwise. Neighbors rebuild, families reunite, communities adapt. The memory of destruction becomes seed of new beginnings. This resilience is not denial of pain, but transformation of it. The ability to turn loss into wisdom, devastation into determination. The fourth lesson is awareness. Many who perish in tsunamis do so because they did not know the signs. In 2004, countless lives were lost because coastal communities did not understand why the sea retreated. In contrast, some tribes in the Andaman Islands survived because their oral traditions taught them that when ground shakes and sea withdraws, one must run to hills. Awareness, passed down through generations, saved them. Imagine the difference if every household knew these signs. Your house may stand in tsunami's path, but your life need not. Awareness is shield, invisible but powerful. In life, as in sea, awareness turns chaos into opportunity, confusion into clarity. The fifth lesson is surrender. In the wave itself, when caught, when dragged, survival often means surrendering to current, conserving energy, clinging when possible, but not fighting every force. Those who exhaust themselves, battling chaos, drown, while those who yield strategically may surface for air, may grab floating debris, may endure until water calms. This surrender is not defeat, it is wisdom. It is knowing when to fight and when to flow, when to resist and when to release. Life too brings waves that overwhelm. To surrender is not to give up but to adapt, to bend so you do not break. These lessons are carved into history. After the Lisbon tsunami, philosophy shifted. Questions about fate and divine justice emerged. Science advanced to explain natural forces. After the 2004 disaster, global warning systems expanded, nations cooperated, awareness spread. After Japan's 2011 tsunami, engineers rethought seawalls, communities practiced evacuations, nuclear safety was reconsidered. Every wave leaves not only destruction but wisdom, written in ruins, carried forward by survivors. Humanity learns, painfully but inevitably, and each lesson improves chance of survival for next generation. Imagine now your own life in this context. You may never face tsunami physically, but metaphorically waves are inevitable. Crises arrive, sweeping away jobs, relationships, health, dreams. The same lessons apply. Humility reminds you that control is illusion, but adaptability is strength. Speed teaches you to act when signs appear, not to waste precious time. Resilience shows you that loss is not end but beginning. Awareness equips you to recognize warning signs in relationships, finances, health. Surrender teaches you to endure storms without exhausting soul. In every way, Tsunami is teacher, not only of survival at sea but survival in life. But let us return to the physical. What would the tsunami that floods your house actually leave behind? Imagine returning to neighborhood after waves recede. Streets coated in mud, trees uprooted, cars stacked like toys, boats lodged in rooftops. The smell of salt, sewage, smoke. Silence broken only by cries of survivors searching. Your house reduced to fragments, memories scattered. And yet, among devastation, human spirit rises. Neighbors helping neighbors, strangers offering aid, communities forming bonds stronger than walls ever were. This too is lesson. Possessions vanish, but solidarity endures. To avoid being victim is not only to run, but to prepare long before. Families that know routes, that practice drills, that teach children what to do, stand far greater chance. Communities that build shelters upon hills, that maintain sirens and systems, that respect coast's power, save lives. Preparation is invisible until it matters, and then it becomes the line between tragedy and survival. Your house may not survive the wave, but your family can, if you honor preparation. And finally, the lesson that transcends all others is respect. The sea is not enemy, not monster waiting to kill, but force indifferent, eternal, beyond morality. To respect it is to live wisely with it, to understand its rhythms, to learn from its myths, to accept its power. Disrespect leads to arrogance, arrogance leads to death. Respect leads to harmony, awareness, survival. Imagine standing once more upon cliff after wave has struck, watching ocean glitter in sun as though nothing happened. You realize the sea is not cruel. It's simply island. It gave life to earth. It sustains climate. It feeds billions. It destroys because it must, not because it chooses. Respect accepts this paradox, and in acceptance, peace is found. So what would the tsunami that floods your house teach you? It would teach humility in face of vastness, speed in moment of decision, resilience in aftermath, awareness before danger, surrender in chaos, respect in every breath. These are lessons written not in books but in water, lessons humanity must remember, lessons that echo far beyond shoreline. To sleep with these stories in your mind is to rest, not in fear but in wisdom, to let waves carry you into dreams where even destruction becomes teacher, where every crash of water is reminder that life is fragile but spirit is strong. Imagine your house, the place where you feel safe, where walls seem solid and permanence seems real. Now imagine the ocean deciding otherwise. To understand what the tsunami that would flood your house would be like, you must strip away the illusion of safety and see your home as it truly is, fragile before billions of tons of moving water. A tsunami is not just wave, it is an invading army of mass and momentum, and your house is no fortress against such force. The comparison is cruel but necessary because only in seeing fragility clearly can you see the path to survival. Begin with foundation. You may believe it's strong, poured concrete or deep pilings, but tsunami water undercuts soil, scours ground beneath, liquefies sand. What once supported your home is torn out from beneath like rug pulled suddenly. Imagine floors buckling, walls twisting, foundations cracking. Then picture pressure of wave itself, every cubic meter of water weighing more than ton, crashing against doors and windows, not in splashes, but in unrelenting surge. The house becomes container filled in seconds, rooms turning into traps of swirling debris. Roofs lift, walls collapse outward, entire structures carried intact for blocks before breaking apart. To imagine this is painful, but truth prepares better than denial. Now, imagine yourself inside as warning signs begin. The earthquake rattles your shelves, pictures fall, pets panic. You step outside and see water withdrawing, seabed exposed, neighbors staring. Do you run inland or hesitate to gather belongings? Every second matters. Those who linger to collect valuables often perish. A tsunami does not wait politely. It does not care about sentiment or property. The decision to abandon house instantly is the most important of your life. This is where mindset separates survivor from victim. The wave may flood your house, but it does not have to take you if you respect the signs. When water arrives, it comes not as graceful surfer's wave, but as wall of brown chaos. It is filled with sand, cars, boats, fragments of other houses. It slams with roar louder than thunder, smashing through doors, windows, walls. Your living room is swallowed in seconds, furniture crashing against ceiling, photographs torn from walls. What once felt permanent dissolves into churning mud. Imagine standing on a hill nearby, watching waves swallow your neighborhood. Roofs detach, cars float, trees snap, entire streets vanish into rolling flood. The sight is overwhelming, almost impossible to believe. Survivors often describe it as watching nightmare unfold in waking life, as if world had transformed into dream of destruction. But there is also strange silence after. Once waves retreat, the landscape is unrecognizable. Streets coated in thick mud, houses reduced to foundations, belongings scattered miles away. The air smells of salt, sewage, smoke. Silence, broken only by cries of survivors. Your house, the place of your memories, is gone. And yet, in that absence, you realize survival mattered more than any object. To live is to carry memory within, not in walls of wood or stone. This realization is harsh but liberating. History offers countless examples of houses swept away. In Banda Aceh during 2004 tsunami, entire neighborhoods vanished. Only concrete slabs remained. In Japan, 2011 families returned to find nothing but empty lots where homes once stood. In Chile, 1960 waves carried fishing villages entirely out to sea. These images are not exaggerations, they are records. And they remind that no house, no matter how well built, can stand against wave of this scale. Only evacuation, only height, only distance can save. Yet humans rebuild. Even after devastation, communities rise again, homes constructed, lives restarted. This resilience shows that though house is fragile, human spirit is not. You may lose walls, but not will. You may lose possessions, but not perseverance. The tsunami destroys, but it also clarifies. It shows what is essential: life, relationships, wisdom. These are things no wave can wash away. Imagine new house rising on higher ground, built with lessons carved from destruction. Imagine family gathered once more, stronger for having survived. This is ocean's paradox. It takes and it teaches, it destroys, and it inspires renewal. So, how do you avoid tsunami that would flood your house? First, by remembering that house itself cannot protect you. Evacuation is survival. Second, by preparing long before. Know evacuation routes, practice drills, teach children signs. Third, by respecting warnings, never dismissing sirens or unusual tides. Fourth, by building with awareness, not arrogance. Houses on stilts, communities on higher ground, shelters prepared, these save lives. And finally, by carrying mindset of humility. No structure is greater than ocean, but awareness makes you stronger than ignorance. The metaphor is clear. In life too, houses we build our careers, relationships, plans seem permanent until crisis comes. Then, wave of illness, failure, betrayal, or loss floods foundation. What stands is not walls, but will, not possessions, but perseverance. To survive, you must abandon illusion of permanence and cling to essence of life. The house may fall, but spirit endures. This is lesson of tsunami applied beyond water. Everything material is fragile, but meaning is indestructible. As you drift toward rest, Imagine your house not as fortress, but as fragile raft floating upon eternity of ocean. The wave may come, but you are not powerless. You can prepare, you can move, you can survive. The tsunami that floods your house is teacher of humility, urgency, resilience, awareness, respect. To learn its lessons before it arrives is to honor life, to sleep not in fear but in wisdom. For ocean is not enemy but eternal guide, reminding always that strength is not in walls but in wisdom, not in possessions but in presence, not in permanence but in resilience that rises even when all else falls. Before the tsunami arrives at your door, it has already arrived in your mind. The earthquake shakes, the sea retreats, the horizon darkens, and in that instant the human brain becomes battlefield between reason and denial, between instinct and hesitation. To understand what the tsunami that would flood your house would be like, you must imagine not only the water striking your walls, but also the fear striking your thoughts. Disaster begins in the mind, and survival begins there too. The psychology of tsunami is paradox. Many who face it do not run immediately, not because they cannot, but because they do not believe. The human mind resists sudden change, clings to normalcy even when normal has ended. Imagine yourself on a coastal street. You feel earthquake, but you tell yourself it is small. You see water recede, but you convince yourself it is unusual low tide. You hear distant roar, but you say it must be traffic or thunder. This denial is fatal. The wave does not wait for belief. It comes regardless. The first battle of survival is to accept reality instantly, no matter how unbelievable it seems. History shows how denial kills. In Lisbon, 1755, crowds wandered into exposed harbor to marvel at ships resting upon sand, unaware they were walking into graveyard. In 2004, tourists on beaches filmed receding waters, fascinated by fish flopping upon sand, moments before a wall of water erased them. In Japan, 2011, some returned to homes after first wave, thinking danger past, only to be taken by second. The mind betrays when it clings to comfort. To survive, you must choose awareness over denial, action over hesitation. But psychology also offers strength. Instinct, when trusted, saves. In 2004, some tribal groups survived because oral traditions taught them signs. They felt quake, saw sea retreat, and ran for hills immediately. They did not debate. They obeyed memory passed through generations. Instinct honed by culture can be sharper than science when seconds count. This shows that survival is not only about physical preparation but about mental conditioning, about training mind to recognize danger and act without delay. What would happen inside your mind if tsunami threatened your house? Fear would surge, adrenaline flooding body, time seeming to slow. Your thoughts would race. Should I stay? Should I run? What about belongings? What about others? The weight of decision compresses into seconds. If trained, your mind would know answer already. Run, climb, leave. If untrained, you might waste precious time debating. This is why preparation is not only physical but mental. Drills, education, awareness they build, reflexes that bypass hesitation. When wave comes, you do not want to think, you want to act. Fear itself is double-edged. It can paralyze or it can propel. Survivors describe terror that sharpened senses, gave them strength to run faster, climb higher, hold breath longer. Others describe fear that froze them, kept them rooted until wave consumed. The difference lies in relationship with fear. If you see it as enemy, it enslaves. If you see it as signal, it empowers. The tsunami teaches that fear is not weakness but messenger, telling you when to move, when to fight, when to surrender. Respect fear, do not deny it, and it becomes ally. The aftermath also tests mind. Survivors of tsunamis often carry trauma, memories of screams silenced, of houses shattered, of loved ones lost. Some wake at night hearing roar of waves that no longer exist. Yet, within trauma also lies resilience. Communities heal by telling stories, by rebuilding together, by transforming horror into warning for future. Memory becomes shield. Imagine yourself surviving, standing upon hill as water recedes, realizing your house is gone but your life remains. The grief is immense, but so is gratitude. This emotional paradox is hallmark of survival, mourning what is lost while celebrating what endures. On a larger scale, psychology of communities matters. Cities that cultivate culture of preparedness fare better. Japan, though devastated in 2011, saved countless lives through evacuation drills and awareness campaigns. People knew where to run, how to climb, when to leave. Their survival was not accident, but mindset. In contrast, communities unprepared often suffer greater losses. This reveals truth. Tsunami is not only natural disaster, it is test of collective psychology. Those who respect ocean live, those who forget its lessons perish. Philosophically, the tsunami mirrors storms of life. How often do people deny crises until too late? Signs of failing relationship ignored, warnings of financial collapse dismissed, symptoms of illness neglected. Then comes wave, sweeping away stability. The same psychology applies. Denial kills, awareness saves. Fear is not curse but compass, pointing toward action. Survival depends on humility to accept reality swiftly, courage to act decisively, resilience to rebuild afterward. To study tsunami psychology is to study life psychology. Imagine again your house. You feel earth tremble, see sea retreat, hear distant roar. Your mind races. In that moment, the strongest survival tool is not wall of concrete but clarity of thought. To say to yourself, without hesitation, this is tsunami. I must run. I must climb. I must live. That clarity is gift of preparation, of remembering lessons written in history, of respecting warnings whispered by ocean. To cultivate such clarity is to honor not only your life but lives of those who depend on you. And if you fail, if hesitation holds you, if wave overtakes you, even then mind plays role. Some trapped in waves survive because they surrender, conserving breath, finding air pockets, grabbing floating debris. Their calm under chaos saves them. Panic consumes oxygen, wastes energy. Calm preserves. This is why philosophy matters even in death's shadow. A calm mind can turn impossible into possible, can carve survival from hopelessness. The ocean teaches this harsh truth. The mind is final fortress, and even when walls fall, fortress can hold. As you rest tonight, let the lesson settle. The tsunami is not only physical but mental. To survive, you must prepare mind as much as body. Accept reality swiftly, respect fear, act without hesitation, surrender wisely, rebuild resiliently. These are not only survival strategies for wave, but for every crisis. The ocean does not distinguish between coastlines and hearts. It floods both, and it demands same wisdom to endure. The tsunami that would flood your house begins in your mind, but so too does your survival. To imagine the tsunami that would flood your house, you must understand the science behind the wave, because science is not cold numbers. It is the language in which the earth whispers its warnings. The sea is not random. Its fury follows laws as precise as mathematics and as ancient as creation. A tsunami is not miracle, not curse, not accident, but the result of forces measured in pressure, displacement, and motion. To see clearly how it forms is to respect it not only as terror but as truth, and in that clarity lies survival. A tsunami begins with displacement. The earth beneath the ocean floor is restless, plates of rock grinding slowly, locked in friction. For centuries they strain against each other until tension surpasses strength, and then suddenly they slip. The seafloor rises or falls by meters, shifting billions of tons of water in an instant. Imagine shaking a basin filled with water. The surface ripples. Now expand that basin to size of ocean. Expand that ripple to scale of continents. That is tsunami. It is not wave born of wind, but wave born of earth itself. In deep ocean, the wave travels unnoticed. Its wavelength can be hundreds of kilometers, its speed greater than jet, yet its height only a meter or less. Ships may sail across unaware, but energy is not gone, it is merely stretched. As wave approaches shallower water, bottom drags, speed decreases, but energy must compress. Height rises, the long flat pulse becomes tower of water. By the time it reaches shore, it is no longer ripple but wall, carrying destruction equal to bombs, equal to storms, equal to gods. Imagine that wave aimed at your coast. Perhaps earthquake happened far away, but wave has crossed ocean for hours, carrying death silently. Then suddenly it rises upon horizon, brown with sand, jagged with debris, roaring louder than thunder. It does not break like surfer's fantasy. It surges, advancing as wall, as flood, as unstoppable force. If your house lies near shore, it is nothing before this energy. The wave will not only strike but invade, rushing inland with power to move cars like toys, to uproot trees, to pulverize concrete. The science is cruel. No human structure can withstand it at full force. But science also teaches how to survive. The energy of wave diminishes with distance and elevation. Each meter upward is shield. Each kilometer inland is barrier. Hills and cliffs become allies. Forests can slow flow. Even small ridges offer safety. This is why knowledge saves. To know that height matters is to know where to run. To know that first retreat of sea is sign is to know when to flee. Science transforms terror into instruction. History proves this. In 2004, the tsunami struck with waves over 30 meters high in some places, yet people who ran to higher ground survived even meters above. In Japan, 2011, entire schools survived because teachers led children to hills without hesitation. In Chile, 1960, communities who remembered stories of earlier waves evacuated swiftly and saved countless lives. Science and memory together create survival. Now imagine your own neighborhood. Where is highest ground? Where are evacuation routes? If earthquake rattled and sea receded, where would you go? To imagine this now is to prepare, because when wave comes, there will be no time for planning. Preparation is act of respect. Respect for science, respect for life. Tsunami is predictable in principle, even if exact timing is uncertain. To ignore science is arrogance. To heed it is wisdom. The science also reveals that tsunamis are not only born of earthquakes, landslides plunging into sea, volcanic eruptions beneath surface, even asteroid impacts can create waves. Each is rare, but rarity is illusion when measured against eternity. Given enough time, ocean always remembers its power. Imagine volcanic island collapsing into sea, water rising instantly into waves radiating outward. Imagine glacier breaking, plunging ice into fjord, waves surging outward to erase villages. These have happened, they will happen again. Science reads their signs in rock, in sediment, in memory of Earth. And what of the energy itself? A single tsunami can carry more energy than all human weapons combined. Its power is not malicious but indifferent. It is Earth's pressure released, balance restored violently. To understand this is to strip away superstition. Tsunami is not punishment but physics, not curse but consequence. And yet consequence feels like curse when it reaches your house, sweeping away walls, possessions, memories. The science explains, but it does not soften. Knowledge prepares, but it cannot prevent. How then do you avoid the tsunami? By acting upon science. Warning systems detect earthquakes, buoys measure waves, sirens sound alerts. But ultimate survival depends on individual choice. No siren can save one who ignores it. No warning helps one who hesitates. Knowledge must become instinct. Science must become reflex. Imagine your body moving without thought. Earthquake, run inland, climb, wait for all waves to pass. This is how science saves lives. By becoming second nature, the deeper lesson lies in applying science of waves to waves of life. Crises, too, have patterns, signs before arrival. Financial collapses show tremors before failure, relationships crack before breaking, health falters before illness strikes. To ignore signs is to be swept away, to act early is to survive. The tsunami of life teaches same lesson, awareness, preparation, swift action. Science of survival is universal. Imagine closing your eyes as you listen, waves in background like heartbeat of earth. The tsunami that would flood your house is terrifying, yes, but it is also understandable. It is law of physics, not whim of fate. And in understanding lies power. Fear without knowledge is paralysis, but fear with knowledge is preparation. The wave may come, but if you know its anatomy, if you respect its science, if you prepare with humility, then you need not perish. You may lose house, but you may save life, and life is treasure greater than any wall. So rest tonight with this thought. The ocean does not conspire against you. It moves as it must, obeying laws older than time. The tsunami is terrible because it is natural, because it is truth unfiltered. To live near sea is to live with this truth. To deny it is folly, to respect it is wisdom. And wisdom, more than walls, is what saves when wave comes. The tsunami that would flood your house is not only a force of physics but also a vessel of memory. Water remembers. It carries within it the weight of earthquakes long past, the shape of coastlines eroded by centuries, the voices of ancestors who watched waves swallow villages and prayed to gods that could not stop them. To study tsunamis is to study memory written not in ink but in layers of sediment, in shells found miles inland, in ruins buried beneath mud. The ocean has witnessed everything, and when it sends a tsunami it is like opening a page of its diary, revealing truths humanity prefers to forget. Consider how cultures across the world have remembered tsunamis in myth and story. In Japan, there are ancient tales of dragon kings who sent waves to punish arrogance, stories that preserved warnings across centuries. In the Pacific Islands, chants speak of seas that withdraw before striking, teaching children to run when they see sand exposed. In the Andaman Islands, oral traditions described water running away before returning to claim land, and because of that memory, tribes survived the Indian Ocean tsunami in 2004 when modern tourists did not. The difference between life and death was memory. Imagine your own house not only as structure of wood and stone, but as chapter in memory of sea. The ground beneath may carry signs of ancient waves, deposits of shells mixed with soil, sand layered above clay. These are whispers of tsunamis long past, forgotten by humans but not by Earth. Scientists read these layers as history books, warning that what happened once will happen again. If your house lies upon low coast, it is part of cycle larger than your lifespan. The sea may be calm for centuries, but it remembers, and one day it may return to claim what was always its own. The psychology of forgetting is dangerous. People rebuild upon ruins, confident that disaster will not return. Generations pass, memory fades, warnings are dismissed. Then ocean reminds. In Chile, towns destroyed in 1960 were rebuilt in same vulnerable places, only to be threatened again decades later. In Japan, communities ignored ancient stone markers that read, "Do not build below this line," and when waves came in 2011, houses beneath markers were lost. Forgetting is betrayal of memory, and betrayal is punished by sea. But memory can save. In one village in Japan, children were taught every year that when earthquake came they must run to temple upon hill. In 2011 they obeyed instantly, climbing as practiced, and entire school survived. In contrast, another school hesitated, debating evacuation, and many children perished. The difference was not luck but memory. Stories repeated, drills practiced, awareness maintained. To avoid tsunami that floods your house, you must honor memory, carry warnings from past into present, live with humility that sees history as greater than your own. What would it mean to treat your house as temporary, fragile against memory of water? It would mean valuing life above walls, people above possessions. It would mean preparing escape routes, knowing hills and shelters, rehearsing actions. It would mean teaching children that sea is not only playground but teacher, that beauty of beach comes with responsibility of respect. To live near coast without memory is arrogance. To live with memory is wisdom. But beyond physical survival, the memory of water carries philosophical lessons. Life too is ocean of waves, some small, some immense. Crises come and go, leaving scars, shaping who you are. Memory preserves those lessons, teaching you not to repeat mistakes. Forgetting brings repetition, remembering brings growth. The tsunami of life loss, failure, betrayal can destroy if forgotten, but can strengthen if remembered. Each hardship is wave written upon you. Each recovery is lesson carried forward. You are, in your own way, ocean of memory. Imagine lying in bed as you hear this, the sea whispering in your mind. The tsunami that would flood your house is terrifying, yes, but it is also a reminder that nothing is permanent, that everything carries history, that forgetting is danger. To rest peacefully is not to deny this, but to accept it, to live with awareness that memory protects. The wave may come, but you are not helpless if you remember. Science confirms what myth always knew: water remembers. Sediment cores reveal ancient tsunamis stretching back thousands of years. Coral reefs preserve scars of sudden waves. Trees near coast carry marks of salt intrusion from floods centuries past. These are records more reliable than human memory, records that whisper warnings. Scientists who study them are interpreters of ocean's memory, translating into maps and probabilities. Yet even best science fails if ignored. Memory must live not only in data, but in hearts, in culture, in stories told by families. So imagine again the wave approaching your street. The ground shakes, sea retreats, neighbors stare. If you remember history, you run. If you forget, you linger. That simple difference is everything. The ocean does not discriminate, but memory does. Those who remember live. Those who forget perish. The choice is harsh but clear, and even after survival, memory matters. Survivors of 2004 tsunami tell stories to children, reminding them that sea can kill. Survivors of Japan 2011 build memorials, mark stones, write warnings. These acts are not only grief, but responsibility, passing memory forward. To survive once is gift, to teach survival is duty. Your house may be rebuilt, but memory of destruction must remain if future generations are to endure. So, what does the memory of water teach? That survival is not only physical act, but cultural inheritance. That houses are fragile, but stories are strong. That walls can crumble, but words can endure. To live wisely is to carry memory like torch, lighting path through darkness of future. The tsunami that would flood your house may or may not come in your lifetime, but memory ensures that when it does, someone will live to tell the story again. The tsunami that would flood your house is not only an event of nature, but a meditation on destiny itself. To live by the ocean is to live in dialogue with eternity, because the waves that lap gently upon the shore are the same waves that have eroded mountains, shaped continents, and swallowed civilizations. Every tide is reminder that permanence is illusion. Every current is whisper that life is fragile. The tsunami is not accident. It is expression of this eternal truth, condensed into one brutal moment when all illusions collapse. To understand what it would be like for your house is to understand what it means to live as human being in a world that never promises tomorrow. Imagine destiny arriving not as slow unfolding but as sudden roar. You wake to earthquake rattling windows, seconds later silence returns, and you think perhaps it is over. But then you hear strange retreat, water pulling away, revealing seabed. You step outside and see children pointing at stranded fish, neighbors staring at horizon. Then you notice sound growing, deep and unbroken, like 100 trains approaching at once. The horizon darkens, and wall of water rises higher than trees. Destiny is no longer abstract. It is concrete and advancing. The tsunami does not ask if you are ready. It does not negotiate. It simply comes, carrying fate upon its crest. When it strikes your house, it will not politely knock but smash, invading every room with force greater than any storm. Floors will buckle, walls will tear, roof may lift away entirely. The rooms you decorated with care will dissolve into churning chaos, photographs scattering, furniture colliding, objects you loved reduced to fragments. In that moment you realize truth. Your house is not fortress, but fragile arrangement of materials, and destiny is stronger than wood or stone. Yet you also realize another truth. Destiny is not only destruction, it is also survival. Because even as wave crushes house, you may run, you may climb, you may endure. The ocean decides its motion, but you decide your response. History is full of destinies carried by waves. The city of Lisbon in 1755 believed itself secure, yet in minutes, wave erased entire districts, forcing philosophers to question divine justice, sparking revolutions in thought. The Indian Ocean tsunami in 2004 forced the world to face interconnected vulnerability, reminding that disasters respect no borders, that one earthquake can wound nations thousands of miles apart. Japan in 2011 faced destiny not only in flooded towns but in nuclear crisis unleashed by wave, teaching that human technology too can be humbled by sea. Each event carried destruction, but also lessons. New paths, new destinies for survivors. The wave is teacher of impermanence. It reminds that every house, every street, every city is temporary. Humans pretend permanence by building stone walls, erecting skyscrapers, drawing borders, but tsunami erases them effortlessly. And yet, paradoxically, the wave is also teacher of endurance, because after destruction comes rebuilding, after ruin comes renewal. Survivors gather, communities rebuild, stories are told. Destiny is not fixed in destruction. It is also written in resilience. The tsunami shows both truths. Nothing lasts forever, but nothing can stop spirit from rising again. What would it mean to accept tsunami as destiny? Not fatalism, not surrender to hopelessness, but humility. It means living with awareness that safety is fragile, that life is gift renewed each day, that possessions are temporary but relationships eternal. To accept destiny of wave is to prepare wisely, to respect sea, to teach children signs, to cherish life more deeply because tomorrow is never promised. When you see ocean calm, you do not take it for granted, because you know within its silence lies potential for storm. This awareness transforms how you live. Destiny also lies in choice. Though tsunami comes without asking, your survival depends on decisions you make. Do you heed warning signs or dismiss them? Do you run inland or linger to collect belongings? Do you teach children drills or hope they never need them? Each choice shapes destiny. The wave may be larger than you, but your decisions are larger than denial. To live wisely is to choose survival before wave arrives, to prepare while skies are still clear. Philosophically, the tsunami is mirror of life. Crises come that feel like waves: sudden illness, financial collapse, betrayal, loss. They sweep away structures you thought permanent. You cannot stop them, but you can survive them. Just as with wave, survival depends on awareness, humility, resilience, surrender. To see life's crises as tsunamis is to see them not as punishment, but as destiny, opportunities to remember what matters most. You may lose possessions, but you gain clarity. You may lose house, but you gain wisdom. Destiny is harsh teacher, but it gives gift of perspective. Imagine again the wave approaching your street. Your house stands in its path, but you stand upon hill, watching. You feel grief as walls shatter, but also gratitude that you live. In that moment, destiny is revealed not as cruelty but as clarity. You understand that house was never true home, only shelter. True home is within, in resilience, in relationships, in wisdom. The wave cannot take that. It floods walls, not spirit. As you rest tonight, let destiny carried by wave remind you to live fully. Build houses, yes, but build also awareness. Cherish possessions, yes, but cherish more the lives that cannot be replaced. Respect ocean, respect time, respect impermanence. The tsunami that would flood your house is terrifying image, but it is also teacher of truths we forget. That life is fragile, that tomorrow is uncertain, that resilience is eternal. Destiny may ride upon crest of wave, but response belongs to you, and in that choice lies freedom. The tsunami that would flood your house is not just a wave, but the ocean itself deciding to walk inland. It is the moment when the boundary between sea and land collapses, when streets become rivers and neighborhoods become seabeds. To imagine it fully, you must picture the familiar dissolving into unfamiliar, the ordinary remade into chaos. Your yard becomes lagoon, your living room becomes current, your walls become reefs for debris. The ocean does not politely stop at shoreline. It advances with hunger, consuming everything in its path, then withdrawing only to strike again. The first invasion is sudden. You hear roar like continuous thunder, louder than any storm you have known. The horizon darkens, not with cloud, but with wall of water stretching from end to end. It rushes faster than car, higher than house, unstoppable. When it reaches your street, the transformation is instant. Asphalt vanishes, sidewalks disappear, trees bend and snap. Cars are lifted, spinning like toys in torrent. Fences collapse, power lines spark, entire houses shift upon foundations. Imagine your house at center of this flood, doors breaking inward, windows exploding, furniture rising as though alive. The space you thought permanent becomes unrecognizable in seconds. Then comes the second invasion. The water does not retreat immediately. It continues inland, flowing relentlessly. Blocks away houses vanish, schools drown, factories crumble. The current is not clear blue but brown chaos, filled with debris, branches, vehicles, fragments of roofs. The smell of salt mixes with sewage, oil, smoke. The air itself becomes heavy, damp with destruction. Survivors struggle to cling to anything that floats, but currents swirl violently, pulling, dragging, crushing. The water inside your house is no gentle flood but river with fists, slamming everything against everything. When at last the wave withdraws, it does not leave quietly. It pulls everything with it, dragging cars back to sea, tearing away walls already weakened, sucking survivors into depths. Then horizon darkens again, because tsunamis come in series. The second or third wave can be higher, crueler. To return to house too soon is to walk into death. Wisdom is patience, waiting upon heights until danger has truly passed. The sea is deceptive. Its silence is not safety until proven by time. History shows this repeated pattern. In 2011 Japan, the second and third waves struck hardest, sweeping away those who believed first had ended. In Chile, 1960, multiple waves struck over hours, each devastating anew. In Lisbon, 1755, 3 waves followed one another, erasing city layer by layer. To imagine tsunami flooding your house is to imagine not single strike but relentless assault, wave after wave reshaping everything. The aftermath is surreal. Streets buried in mud, houses reduced to skeletons, ships stranded miles inland. Your house may be unrecognizable, foundation cracked, walls scattered, belongings scattered miles away. The air is filled with silence, broken only by cries of survivors. And yet even in ruin life stirs. People gather, search, rescue. Strangers help strangers, hands lift rubble, voices call out. The ocean may destroy, but humanity rebuilds. The wave teaches fragility, but aftermath teaches resilience. What would it mean for your house? It means accepting that house itself is not ultimate protection. No matter how strong, it cannot resist ocean walking inland. Your survival is not in walls but in awareness, not in possessions but in preparation. To live wisely near coast is to respect this truth. To imagine tsunami destroying house is painful, but it clarifies priorities. Life matters more than wood, family more than furniture, wisdom more than wealth. Philosophically, the tsunami is symbol of change. In life too, boundaries collapse. What you thought safe may suddenly dissolve. What you thought permanent may vanish overnight. Careers end, relationships break, health fails. These are waves walking inland, erasing old landscapes. To survive is not to deny but to adapt, to let go of what cannot be saved, to cling to what endures. Tsunami teaches that resilience is not about holding ground, but about finding higher ground, not about defending walls, but about preserving life. Imagine now watching from hill as water covers your neighborhood. Grief surges because every house you knew is gone. But gratitude also surges because you live. In that paradox lies wisdom. The house was temporary, but life is enduring. The possessions are scattered, but spirit remains whole. The wave may erase, but it cannot erase meaning. To understand this is to find peace even amid loss, to sleep even while ocean roars. The ocean walking inland is terrifying image, but it is also teacher. It says do not cling to illusions of permanence. Prepare for change. Respect forces larger than yourself. It says live with humility, not arrogance. It says teach children signs, respect traditions, honor memory of past waves. It says survival is not luck but wisdom passed forward. If you listen, you live. If you forget, you drown. The tsunami that would flood your house is lesson written in salt, carved in mud, spoken in roar of water. To sleep with this story in your mind is to awaken wiser, stronger, ready not only for wave of ocean but for waves of life. The tsunami that would flood your house is not only a wall of water, but the ocean reclaiming what it believes was always its own. Humanity draws lines on maps, builds fences on sand, pours concrete upon coasts, and calls this permanence. But the sea does not recognize these borders. It has its own map written in currents and tides, its own law written in gravity and pressure. When tectonic plates shift, when volcanoes erupt, when mountains crumble into water, the ocean moves to restore its balance, and in that motion it erases the illusions of human ownership. To imagine your house under wave is to realize that your foundation rests not upon certainty but upon borrowed land, land that may be returned to sea without warning. The process begins invisibly, often hundreds of miles away. Deep beneath the surface, rock fractures, pushing or pulling seabed by meters. This motion transfers to water above, creating pulse that radiates outward faster than jet. Hours may pass before it reaches coast, but its arrival is inevitable. Out in deep ocean, the wave is almost invisible, less than a meter high, unnoticed by ships. Yet its energy is enormous, and when it meets shallow shore, it transforms into wall. You may not even know it is coming until horizon shifts, until roar builds, until water retreats in unnatural silence. Then, suddenly, ocean claims what it will. Picture your house as first wave arrives. Perhaps you are inside, unaware, when ground shakes beneath. Perhaps you step outside and see neighbors staring at seabed newly exposed. Perhaps you hear sirens or perhaps none sound. Then wall rises, surging toward your street. In seconds, water smashes against foundation, tearing away doors, breaking windows, flooding rooms. Furniture collides violently, walls shudder, floors collapse. The house becomes river channel, every object carried by torrent. The garden you tended becomes mud pit, the memories you cherished scatter in brown flood. This is how ocean claims its due, not slowly, not politely, but with unstoppable force. And then it pulls back, dragging everything with it. Cars, beams, roofs, even entire houses are carried out to sea. Survivors cling to debris, struggling for air, fighting currents that twist like whirlpools. Then second wave arrives, perhaps larger than first. It strikes again, compounding destruction. In some tsunamis, third or fourth waves follow, each devastating anew. The ocean does not measure mercy in numbers. It comes until its balance is restored. For your house, this means total erasure, foundation stripped bare, walls scattered, belongings lost beyond horizon. What was once home is returned to ocean, claimed without apology. History confirms this relentless process. In 2004, Indonesian villages were erased entirely, not a single house left standing. In Japan, 2011 ships were lifted onto rooftops. Neighborhoods vanished beneath water, farmland turned to salt wasteland. In Alaska, 1958, a landslide into fjord created wave over 500 meters high, scouring mountainsides, uprooting forests. These are not myths but facts. Proof that when ocean claims, it does so without limit. To imagine your house in path of such force is to recognize its fragility, its impermanence, its dependence upon mercy of sea. Yet survival remains possible. Houses are lost, but lives can be saved if wisdom guides. The ocean does not target individuals, it simply moves. Those who respect signs, who flee to higher ground, who prepare, survive. Those who deny, who linger, who cling to possessions, perish. The difference is not strength but awareness, not walls but wisdom. Imagine yourself hearing earthquake, seeing retreat, feeling roar. If you obey instinct and knowledge, you may live. If you hesitate, house becomes grave. The wave teaches this lesson brutally but clearly. There is also lesson in humility. We imagine we own land, build walls, name streets, declare permanence. But tsunami reminds us that all is temporary, that earth itself is in motion, that ocean recognizes no deeds of ownership. To live wisely is not to deny this truth but to accept it. Your house may stand for decades, but it is always guest upon coast. To forget this is arrogance, to remember is wisdom. When ocean claims its due, it is not cruelty, but nature restoring balance. Philosophically, tsunami mirrors truth of life. Everything we own, everything we build, is temporary. Careers end, relationships change, health falters, dreams collapse. These are waves claiming what was never fully ours. The lesson is not despair but clarity. Cherish while you have, respect while it lasts, prepare for loss as inevitable. To cling is to suffer, to accept is to live freely. Tsunami teaches impermanence more vividly than any philosophy. To imagine your house under wave is to face truth that nothing material endures forever. Yet within destruction lies renewal. Survivors rebuild stronger, wiser. Communities rise with deeper respect. Families mourn but also cherish more deeply. After every tsunami there is devastation, but also resilience. Japan after 2011 rebuilt with stronger defenses. Indonesia after 2004 created global warning systems. Chile after 1960 strengthened building codes. Each wave leaves scars but also progress. Ocean claims but humanity learns. Imagine standing upon hill after wave recedes. Your house is gone but you live. Around you survivors gather, faces marked by grief but also by gratitude. Together you begin again. The land is scarred, but it will heal. The memories are painful, but they will shape future. The wave has claimed its due, but it has also left you alive to tell story, to carry lesson, to honor truth. That is paradox of tsunami. It destroys to teach, it erases to remind, it humbles to awaken. So what would tsunami that floods your house truly be like? It would be terrifying, yes, but it would also be teacher. It would show fragility of walls, impermanence of possessions, power of nature, necessity of humility. It would demand respect, awareness, preparation. It would leave scars, but also wisdom. It would take much, but leave gift of perspective. The ocean that claims its due also gives lesson in what matters most. As you rest tonight, let that lesson settle. The wave may come, but you are not helpless. You can prepare, you can learn, you can respect. Your house is fragile, but your spirit is not. The tsunami that floods your house may erase walls, but it cannot erase resilience. The ocean claims what it will, but it cannot claim meaning, cannot claim wisdom, cannot claim humanity's ability to rise again. The tsunami that would flood your house is not anomaly, not freak accident, but part of cycle older than humanity itself. The earth is restless, its plates forever shifting, its volcanoes forever rumbling, its cliffs forever crumbling into sea. The ocean is patient, carrying these movements across horizons, turning pressure into waves, turning collapse into surges. To imagine what the tsunami would be like for your home is to imagine not rare catastrophe but inevitable rhythm, the heartbeat of planet expressed through water. It has happened countless times before. It will happen countless times again, and in between humanity builds, forgets, and is reminded. This cycle begins deep in mantle, where heat churns rock slowly but ceaselessly. Tectonic plates float upon this restless foundation, colliding, separating, grinding. At boundaries, pressure accumulates until release comes in sudden earthquakes. When these occur beneath ocean, they create displacement that becomes tsunami. This has been true for millions of years. Long before houses, long before cities, waves crashed against ancient coasts, erasing landscapes, shaping valleys, scattering forests. The ocean has never been still, and to believe your house immune is to forget you live within endless cycle. History confirms this pattern. Japan has records of tsunamis stretching back over 1,000 years, each generation leaving stones engraved with warnings not to build below certain heights. Chile has endured repeated waves from massive quakes along its subduction zone, each reminding that coast is fragile frontier. Indonesia sits upon ring of fire, its islands shaken by countless quakes, its shores struck by countless tsunamis. These are not isolated tragedies, but chapters in ongoing story, the cycle of Earth's motion translated into human loss and resilience. Your house, if near coast, is part of this cycle whether you acknowledge it or not. The cycle also includes forgetting. After decades of calm, people rebuild upon lowlands. Confident waves will not return. Generations pass, memory fades, warnings are ignored. Then ocean reclaims its due, repeating lesson. In 2004, villages along Indian Ocean had no memory of past waves, and so thousands lingered upon exposed seabed, unaware of danger. In contrast, tribes with memory survived. The cycle of remembering and forgetting is as dangerous as cycle of Earth itself. To survive, you must break forgetting, carry memory across generations, teach children that ocean gives but also takes. Imagine your house within this cycle. Perhaps it stands for years, perhaps decades, untouched by disaster. You begin to believe it permanent, secure, eternal. But beneath ocean pressure grows, unseen. One day release will come, and wave will travel. It may not come in your lifetime, but it will come. To live wisely is not to deny, but to prepare, to accept fragility as fact, to honor cycle with respect. Your house is temporary chapter, not final word. The sea has spoken before and will speak again. But cycle is not only destruction, it is also renewal. After waves recede, survivors rebuild, crops grow again, forests return, children are born. Communities scarred by loss also grow stronger, wiser. Japan rebuilt after 2011 with deeper awareness. Indonesia created warning systems after 2004. Chile adapted building codes after 1960. Each wave destroyed, but each also taught. This is cycle of resilience, humanity rising again and again after being humbled. The tsunami erases, but it also inspires. The ocean cycle is harsh, but it is also rhythm of renewal. Philosophically, this cycle mirrors life itself. Crises come repeatedly, losses, failures, illnesses. Each feels like tsunami, sweeping away stability. But life too is cycle of falling and rising, breaking and healing, losing and learning. To deny this is to live in illusion. To accept is to live in wisdom. The tsunami teaches that nothing is permanent, but resilience is eternal. Your house may fall, but your spirit can rise. Your possessions may scatter, but your meaning can endure. The cycle destroys illusions but preserves truth. So what would tsunami flooding your house look like within this cycle? It would look like continuation, not exception. The wave comes, erases, recedes. You survive, rebuild, teach. Another generation grows, perhaps forgets. Then wave returns. The cycle is endless, but your awareness can break forgetting. By telling stories, by preparing drills, by respecting sea, you ensure that when wave returns, more survive. The cycle humbles but also elevates, reminding humanity that survival depends not on denying rhythm, but on moving with it. Imagine lying in bed, hearing ocean outside, calm tonight but powerful beneath surface. You realize it has rhythm older than stars you see above. The tsunami that would flood your house is one beat in endless drum, one chapter in eternal book. You cannot stop it, but you can live wisely within it. Accept impermanence, cherish present, prepare for change. That is wisdom cycle teaches. So rest with this thought. The ocean is not enemy, but cycle, eternal, indifferent, powerful. The tsunami is part of its rhythm, harsh but truthful. Your house is fragile, your life temporary, but your wisdom can be eternal if you pass it forward. The wave may come, but so too will resilience. The cycle never ends, but neither does spirit. The tsunami that would flood your house does not arrive suddenly out of nowhere, it always speaks first. The earth rumbles, the water recedes, the birds take flight, and the horizon darkens. Yet in these warnings lies the paradox of humanity, for many ignore them until it is too late. The last warning of the ocean is both mercy and test. Mercy, because it gives you moments to act. Test, because it measures whether you have listened to the wisdom of the past or whether you have fallen asleep in the illusion of permanence. Imagine yourself at home when the earth begins to shake. Pictures rattle on walls, glasses topple, the floor groans beneath your feet. It lasts only seconds, but those seconds are announcement. Then, silence. No more shaking, no more sound. You step outside and see neighbors confused, children pointing to the sea. You follow their gaze and realize the tide has retreated far beyond normal, exposing seabed where no one should walk. Fish flop helplessly, boats rest upon sand, crabs scurry confused. Some laugh, some stare, some take photographs. But the wise know what this means. The ocean is pulling back not as gift, but as preparation for strike. That is the last warning. This warning is ancient and universal. Oral traditions from island cultures in Pacific teach that when sea runs away, death is near. Stories in Japan describe the dragon of the deep inhaling before exhaling destruction. In 2004, tribes in Andaman Islands remembered these stories, and when water receded, they fled to high ground, surviving while tourists lingered. The difference was not luck but memory. The ocean always warns, but not everyone listens. Now imagine ignoring this warning. You linger upon beach, watching horizon, marveling at unusual sight. Minutes pass, then sound builds, low and constant, a roar like 100 trains approaching at once. You look again, and horizon is no longer line but wall. The wave rises, advancing faster than car, taller than house. By then, it is too late. The last warning was given, but you did not act. This is how denial kills. The science confirms warning signs: earthquakes offshore of certain magnitude, sea retreat, continuous roar, unusual animal behavior, all indicators of tsunami. Modern technology enhances warnings with buoys, satellites, sirens. Yet even best systems cannot replace personal awareness. In 2011, many in Japan evacuated not because sirens sounded, but because they felt quake and knew instinctively to run. Warnings save only those who trust them. To survive, you must believe signs, even when others doubt. Philosophically, the last warning of ocean mirrors last warnings of life. Crises, too, give signals before striking. Bodies show symptoms before illness. Finances reveal cracks before collapse. Relationships fray before ending. Too often humans ignore these, convincing themselves all is well, until wave crashes. Wisdom is not in denying but in heeding, in acting swiftly when signs appear. The tsunami teaches that life itself is full of warnings, and survival belongs to those who listen. But warnings also demand courage. To flee when others remain requires strength. To leave possessions behind requires clarity. To climb hill while neighbors linger requires independence. Many hesitate because they fear ridicule. They fear loss of belongings. They fear overreacting. Yet hesitation kills. Courage is not absence of fear, but action despite fear. The tsunami rewards courage, punishes hesitation. When the last warning comes, you must run without shame, without delay. Imagine your house again. Earthquake shakes, sea retreats, roar builds. You have seconds, perhaps minutes. If you run now, you may survive. If you hesitate, house will become trap. The walls you painted, the furniture you arranged, the memories you created, all will drown. The ocean does not pause for sentiment. The last warning is gift, but fleeting. To survive, you must accept that house is replaceable, life is not. That clarity is salvation. History proves cost of ignoring last warnings. In 2000, 4,000 stood upon exposed seabed in Indonesia, fascinated by fish, unaware they were seconds from death. In Japan, despite centuries of stone markers warning do not build below this line, many towns ignored, rebuilding too close to shore, and waves returned to erase them. In Lisbon 1755, crowds ran to docks after earthquake, only to be engulfed. The lesson is consistent. Warnings ignored become graves. Yet there are also stories of survival through wisdom. In Chile 2010, after earthquake, coastal villagers remembered history and ran to hills before wave arrived. In Samoa 2009, a child remembered school drill and led family uphill, saving them. In Japan, entire schools survived because teachers acted instantly, obeying tradition of drills. These stories show that warnings matter, and action matters even more. The ocean speaks, and those who listen live. The last warning also teaches humility. Humanity builds walls, designs defenses, constructs barriers. Yet when ocean retreats, those walls may crumble. Technology may fail, sirens may break, power may vanish. In that moment, survival depends not on machines but on memory, not on concrete but on clarity. To live wisely near coast is to honor this truth. The ocean will give warning, but it will not wait. Respect is not in expecting to stop wave, but in knowing when to run from it. Philosophically, the last warning reminds us of mortality itself. Life too gives signals before end. Hair grays, muscles weaken, memory falters. These are not punishments but warnings that time is limited. To live fully is to heed these, to cherish present, to prepare legacy, to love deeply. The tsunami as last warning is metaphor for life as last journey. The wave will come, whether tomorrow or years from now, but if you listen, if you prepare, if you act, you may not stop it, but you may transform how you face it. Imagine lying in bed tonight, hearing gentle waves outside window. They are calm, yet they carry power to roar. You know that if one day they retreat suddenly, that will be last warning. You hope never to see it, yet you know if you do, you will act. Because you listened to stories, you respected memory, you accepted truth. This is how wisdom transforms fear into survival, how awareness transforms fragility into resilience. The ocean is merciful enough to warn. Humanity must be humble enough to heed. So, what is the last warning of the ocean? It is earthquake rattling ground, sea retreating unnaturally, horizon darkening, roar building. It is memory of ancestors telling you to run. It is instinct urging you to flee when others remain. It is your spirit recognizing fragility of walls and valuing breath above belongings. The tsunami that would flood your house is terrifying, but it is also preceded by whisper of salvation. That whisper is last warning, and if you honor it, you may live to tell story. The tsunami that would flood your house is terrifying not only because of the destruction it brings, but because it reveals a truth that lives inside every human being. We spend our lives constructing walls, collecting possessions, arranging routines, convincing ourselves that permanence is real. But permanence is illusion. The tsunami comes as messenger to tear down illusion and reveal reality. It says nothing you own is truly yours, nothing you build is forever, and yet within that fragility lies the seed of true strength. To imagine the wave is to imagine yourself stripped of everything except what endures, your will to live, your courage to act, your love for others, your resilience to rebuild. Picture the final moment when wave arrives at your street. You have heard the roar, you have seen the sea retreat, you know what comes. The wall of water rises higher than houses, brown with sand, jagged with debris, roaring like beast older than time. It surges forward, unstoppable. Your house, proud and carefully built, crumbles within seconds, roof torn, walls shattered, belongings scattered. But you are not inside. You are upon hill, breathless but alive, watching destruction from safety. Your heart breaks at loss, yet it also soars with gratitude. Because you chose to listen, you chose to act, you chose life over denial. The tsunami has claimed your house, but it has not claimed you. That is final lesson. Survival is choice made in moments of clarity. When you walk back down after wave recedes, landscape is unrecognizable. Streets are rivers of mud, cars piled atop one another, trees uprooted, silence heavy except for cries of survivors. You search where house once stood and find only fragments. A door here, a chair there, photographs scattered miles away. It feels like erasure, like your story has been torn out of book. But as you stand amid ruins, you realize story is not gone, only transformed. The walls are broken, but the meaning remains within you. The tsunami has taken much, but it has given clarity. That house was never true home, only structure. True home is in the bonds you share, the memories you carry, the strength you embody. This final realization extends beyond ocean. Life itself is full of tsunamis, crises that sweep away what you thought secure. Loss of loved one, collapse of career, betrayal of trust, sudden illness all arrive like waves, uninvited, unstoppable. They flood your inner house, tearing down illusions. In those moments you feel destroyed, yet slowly you realize that beneath destruction lies indestructible self. You rebuild not same as before, but stronger, wiser, freer. The tsunami outside mirrors tsunami inside, both teaching that fragility is universal and resilience eternal. Human history itself is shaped by waves. Civilizations rise and fall like tides. Cities built upon coasts are erased by floods. Empires crumble, yet humanity continues. The tsunami that floods your house is a small chapter in grand narrative of earth and sea, but it is also a personal reminder that you belong to something larger. You are not owner of land but guest. You are not master of ocean but student. When wave comes, it humbles you, yet in humility you discover meaning. What then is the way to avoid tsunami? You cannot stop wave, but you can avoid death by heeding signs, running to higher ground, respecting nature. Beyond literal, you avoid inner tsunamis by recognizing warnings in life, by preparing your mind with resilience, by acting with courage when crisis strikes. Avoidance is not denial, it is awareness. You live not in fear but in respect. You sleep not in ignorance but in wisdom. You prepare not because you expect disaster, but because you honor possibility. Philosophically, the tsunami reveals paradox of life, that only by accepting impermanence can you find peace. Those who cling to possessions suffer most when wave arrives. Those who cling to illusions drown in denial. But those who accept fragility live freely, because they know nothing can be fully controlled, and that is liberation. The tsunami teaches surrender, not as defeat, but as wisdom. You surrender illusion of control, and in that surrender you find strength to adapt, courage to act, clarity to live fully. Now imagine lying in bed after hearing this story. The ocean outside is calm, gentle waves kissing shore, yet within that calm lies power to rise. You do not fear, because you respect. You do not deny, because you know. You close your eyes and breathe deeply, understanding that life too is ocean, calm today, storm tomorrow, yet always beautiful. You understand that true house is not building but heart, not walls but love, not possessions but meaning, and you know that no tsunami, no wave, no crisis can ever erase that. The final lesson of the tsunami that would flood your house is that survival is not only about escaping water, it is about living wisely every day. It is about cherishing life, respecting forces greater than yourself, preparing without paranoia, loving without delay, because one day wave will come, whether from sea or from life, and you will face moment of choice. If you listen to warnings, if you act with courage, if you accept impermanence, then you will not only survive, you will live fully. The tsunami destroys, but it also awakens. The wave erases, but it also reveals. The flood humbles, but it also teaches. So rest now with this image. The wave that once terrified you now lives within you, not as fear, but as wisdom. You carry its roar as reminder, its retreat as warning, its strike as lesson. You carry knowledge that nothing lasts, but everything matters. You carry awareness that life is fragile, but resilience is eternal. The tsunami may one day flood your house, but it will never drown your spirit, and that is truth more powerful than any wave.